Imagine walking around a snowy farmhouse in the middle of a World War II battlefield, and suddenly 90 armed German soldiers are staring straight at you. You're outnumbered 90-1. Your weaponless men are on their knees, and a gun is shoved right into your stomach. What would you do? Surrender or do the impossible? This is the story of Leonard Funk, a 5'5" paratrooper, former store clerk, and the man who laughed in the face of certain death and turned it into one of the most insane acts of combat in history. By the end of this video, you'll see how one split-second decision, not fear, not strength, but pure guts, changed the lives of dozens of soldiers and earned him the Medal of Honor. Here's the question for you before we dive in. If you were standing in Funk's shoes, surrounded, outnumbered, with a gun in your stomach, would you surrender, fight, or do something no one could predict? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to see what you would do. Okay, so on January 29, 1945, Holzheim, Belgium, First Sergeant Leonard Funk steps around the corner of a farmhouse and the world freezes. 90 German soldiers are standing there, staring straight at him. Half of them already have weapons in their hands. The rest are scrambling, grabbing rifles from a pile on the ground. In front of them, kneeling in the snow, are 4 American GIs, hands locked behind their heads, helpless. These Germans were prisoners just 20 minutes ago. 80 of them had been captured during the assault on the village, guarded by only 4 Americans because that was all Company C could spare. Somehow, they broke free. Now they're armed, organized, and positioned perfectly to hit Company C from behind. A German officer steps forward. He jams an MP-40 submachine gun into Funk's stomach and starts shouting in German. Funk doesn't understand a word, neither do the other Americans. The officer screams again, louder this time, his face turning red with rage. Funk takes it all in, the 90 Germans, his 4 disarmed men, the cold metal pressed into his gut. And then he starts laughing. The German officer freezes, confused, then furious. He screams again. Funk laughs harder. What happens next takes less than 1 minute. 21 German soldiers will be dead. The rest will throw down their weapons and surrender, and Leonard Funk will earn the Medal of Honor for one of the most unbelievable acts of combat in World War II, all because he couldn't stop laughing. Leonard Alfred Funk Jr. was born on August 27, 1916, in Braddock Township, Pennsylvania, a steel town, smokestacks, foundries, and the constant haze rising from the Monongahela River just east of Pittsburgh. Life there made you grow up fast. Funk learned responsibility early. By the time he finished high school in 1934, he'd already spent years taking care of his younger brother. There was no safety net, no room for hesitation. By 1941, the Great Depression was still choking the country. Jobs were rare. College was a dream most people couldn't afford to have. War was already tearing through Europe and Asia, and when Congress expanded the draft, Funk's number came up. He reported to the induction center in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. 24 years old, 5'5", 140 pounds. The Army physical examiner probably saw him and thought, desk job. They were very wrong. He volunteered for the paratroopers. In 1941, American airborne forces barely existed. The idea itself sounded insane. Jumping out of perfectly good airplanes, landing behind enemy lines, and fighting completely surrounded. Most soldiers thought it was suicide. The men who volunteered were different. They had to be. Airborne training wasn't just hard, it was designed to break you. 5 brutal weeks of running, jumping, climbing, falling. Constant exhaustion. Half the candidates didn't make it. Then came the jump towers, then the aircraft. The first time you step out of a C-47 at 1,200 feet, every instinct in your body is screaming to grab the door and hang on. The ground is impossibly far away. The wind rips at your face. Your parachute is nothing but fabric, cord, and faith. Funk earned his jump wings. He was assigned to Company C, 1st Battalion, 508th Paratrooper Infantry Regiment at Camp Blanding, Florida. In late 1943, the 508th shipped out to England and joined the 82nd Airborne Division, the All-Americans, veterans of Sicily and Italy, men who had already jumped into combat, already killed, already watched friends die. Funk was the new guy. At 27, he was considered old for a paratrooper. Most of the men around him were barely 20. But Funk had something they didn't: calm, maturity, and a quiet steadiness that made people trust him without him ever raising his voice. By D-Day, he was a squad leader. Before the war was over, he'd be acting company executive officer. First, though, he had to survive Normandy. June 6, 1944, 1:30 a.m. The C-47 Skytrain shudders violently as flak explodes around it. Funk stands in the stick, a line of paratroopers waiting to jump. 60 pounds of gear hangs off his body: a Thompson submachine gun, ammunition, grenades, rations, medical kit. The aircraft is flying at 400 feet, far too low for a safe jump. But the pilots can't climb. German anti-aircraft fire is everywhere. Tracers streak through the darkness like fireflies. Shrapnel slams into the fuselage. 13,000 paratroopers from the 82nd and 101st Airborne are dropping into France. Their mission is simple on paper: secure bridges and crossroads, block German reinforcements, and buy time for the invasion beaches. In reality, nothing goes to plan. The green light snaps on. Funk jumps. The prop blast slams into him like a truck. Then the chute opens, and suddenly everything goes quiet. Below him is France, occupied France, enemy territory in every direction. The airborne operation collapses into chaos almost immediately. Anti-aircraft fire scatters formations across 50 miles of countryside. Paratroopers land in flooded fields and drown under the weight of their gear. Others drop straight into German camps and are killed before they can even cut themselves free. Funk hits the ground hard. His ankle twists on impact, badly sprained, maybe broken. The pain is instant and brutal. Every step will be agony for the next 2 weeks. But he can walk, and he can fight. That's enough. He buries his parachute and starts moving. He's 40 miles from his intended drop zone, alone, in the dark, in German-held territory. Within hours, he finds other lost paratroopers, men from different units, different companies, even different regiments, 18 of them eventually, all looking for someone to lead. Funk steps into that role without hesitation. For 10 days, he leads them through occupied France. They move at night, hide during the day, fight when there's no other choice. Despite his injured ankle, Funk insists on walking point, taking the most dangerous position to protect the others. On June 17th, they finally link up with Allied forces. Every single man survives. 10 days behind enemy lines. 40 miles through German territory. 0 casualties. Leonard Funk brings them all home. He's awarded the Silver Star, a Bronze Star for meritorious service, and his first Purple Heart. And he's still just getting started. September 17, 1944. The Netherlands. Operation Market Garden, the largest airborne assault in history. 35,000 paratroopers drop into Holland to seize a chain of bridges across the Rhine. British, American, and Polish forces jumping together. If it works, the Allies could be inside Germany by Christmas. Field Marshal Montgomery's plan is bold, maybe too bold. 7 bridges across 64 miles of territory. Ground forces must race up a single highway to link up with the airborne troops. Everything depends on speed, on surprise, on nothing going wrong. Everything goes wrong. The British 1st Airborne lands at Arnhem, the farthest bridge, and runs straight into SS Panzer divisions that weren't supposed to be there. For 9 days they fight street to street. Only 2,000 of the 10,000 men make it out alive. The bridge too far becomes legend. But Funk doesn't know any of that. He only knows his mission: secure the drop zones, support the landings, kill Germans. After hitting the ground, his company takes its objective: routine work. The 508th operates near Nijmegen, helping capture bridges to clear the way for advancing ground forces. For Leonard Funk, the war is still building toward the moment that will define him. And that moment is coming. That's when Funk spots something that absolutely does not belong in the plan. 3 German 20mm anti-aircraft guns are firing non-stop at the sky. Allied gliders are coming in low, slow, defenseless, packed with reinforcements, jeeps, artillery, ammunition, medics, men who won't even have a chance to fight if those guns keep firing. If the Germans aren't stopped, hundreds will die before they touch the ground. The gun position is dug into high ground near a small village. Sandbags, camouflage, overlapping fields of fire. Around 20 German soldiers manning the weapons and guarding the site. Funk looks at what he has: 3 men. Military doctrine is clear: you need at least a 3-to-1 advantage to assault a fortified position. Funk has the opposite. He's outnumbered 7-to-1. He attacks anyway. Leading from the front, Funk and his 3-man patrol charge the position. They hit the security detail first: fast, violent, close range. Then they stormed the gun pits: grenades, gunfire, chaos. Within minutes, all 3 anti-aircraft guns are destroyed. Their crews are dead or fleeing. 20 Germans neutralized. The sky goes quiet. The gliders land safely. For that action, Leonard Funk is awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, the 2nd highest decoration for valor in the U.S. military, just 1 step below the Medal of Honor. Now he holds a Silver Star and a DSC, 2 decorations most soldiers will never see in a lifetime. Funk is still not finished. December 16, 1944. Germany launches its last desperate gamble. 3 armies, 400,000 men, 1,400 tanks, nearly 2,000 artillery pieces. They smash through the American lines in the Ardennes forest, aiming straight for the port of Antwerp. Hitler's plan is insane and terrifyingly close to working. He's betting everything on one massive strike: split the Allied armies, capture Antwerp, force a negotiated peace in the West so Germany can turn fully against the Soviets. For the Americans, it's a nightmare. The attack slams into thinly held sectors, green troops, exhausted veterans pulled off the line to rest. Entire divisions collapse, thousands surrender. The German advance punches a bulge 50 miles deep into Allied territory. The Battle of the Bulge becomes the largest battle the U.S. Army will fight in World War II. 89,000 American casualties. And the weather is merciless. Snow, ice, temperatures dropping to 5 degrees below zero. Men freeze to death in their foxholes. Weapons seize up. Vehicles refuse to start. The cold kills just as efficiently as bullets. Then comes Malmedy, December 17, 1944. A convoy from the 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion is moving near a crossroads when it collides head-on with Kampfgruppe Piper, an elite SS armored battle group. The Americans aren't frontline infantry. They're observers, radio operators, support troops. They have no chance against tanks and armored infantry. After a brief fight, 113 Americans surrender. They're herded into a farmer's field, disarmed, hands in the air, prisoners of war. Then the SS opens fire. Machine guns, rifles, pistols. Men are gunned down where they stand. Those who try to run are cut apart. Wounded soldiers are finished off with shots to the head. 84 Americans die in that field. Some survive by playing dead, lying motionless in the snow while German boots crunch past them, while German voices laugh nearby. When night falls, 43 survivors crawl away and make it back to American lines. The news spreads like wildfire. The Germans are executing prisoners. Malmedy changes everything. Before this, the war in Europe had rules, unspoken but real. Soldiers surrendered when there was no hope. Prisoners were treated according to the Geneva Convention. There was a grim professionalism between enemies. After Malmedy, the rules vanish. American soldiers swear they'll never surrender to the SS. Some units pass down quiet orders: no SS prisoners. When Funk hears about the massacre, something inside him hardens. He's already seen Normandy, Holland, friends dying in fields and forests across Europe. But this is different. This is murder. Cold-blooded execution of men who surrendered in good faith. Leonard Funk decides he will never surrender to the Germans, no matter what. That decision is about to matter. January 29, 1945. The Ardennes. The German offensive has been broken. Now the Allies are pushing back. Company C, 508th Paratroop Infantry, receives orders to capture the Belgian village of Holzheim. There's a problem. Company C is badly under strength. The executive officer, the second in command, has been killed. They don't have enough men for the assault. Funk is now acting executive officer. He looks at the roster, then he makes a call. He walks into the company headquarters tent. Inside are clerks, supply men, cooks, soldiers who normally never see combat. "You're all infantry now," Funk tells them. "Grab your weapons, we're taking that village." He forms a makeshift platoon, 30 men who've spent most of the war behind desks. They've had basic training, sure, but real combat? Most have never fired a shot at another human being. Funk doesn't hesitate. He needs bodies. He'll make them soldiers. The march to Holzheim is 15 miles through waist-deep snow in a driving blizzard with temperatures well below freezing. German artillery harasses them the entire way. Shells burst nearby. Shrapnel screams through the air. Funk leads from the front. They reach the village. 15 houses, Germans in every one, machine guns, rifles, grenades. Funk and his men clear them all. 30 Germans surrender, not a single American casualty. Another unit captures 50 more Germans on the far side of town. 80 prisoners total. They're herded into the yard of a farmhouse. Funk looks at his men. They're exhausted. Hours of marching and fighting in brutal cold. There's still resistance elsewhere in the village. He can spare only 4 men to guard the prisoners. "Keep them here," he tells the guards. "We'll send reinforcements as soon as we can." Then Funk heads back into the fight. He has no idea what's happening behind him. While Funk is clearing the rest of Holzheim, a German patrol approaches the farmhouse. 10, maybe 20 men. They're wearing white camouflage capes. In the snow and confusion, they look almost exactly like American troops. The 4 guards realize the danger too late. They're overwhelmed, disarmed. forced to their knees. The Germans free the prisoners, 80 captured soldiers plus the patrol that rescued them, 90 Germans in total. They grab weapons from the pile, they organize fast, they know exactly what they're going to do. Attack Company C from the rear. Funk's men are scattered across the village, mopping up resistance. No one is expecting an attack from behind. If 90 armed Germans hit them now, it'll be a slaughter. The German officer in charge begins issuing orders. Machine guns here, ambush positions there, wait for my signal. That's when Leonard Funk walks around the corner. He's come to check on the prisoners. Routine, make sure the guards are okay, see if reinforcements have arrived. He isn't expecting what he sees. He rounds the farmhouse and stops cold. 90 armed Germans and his 4 soldiers kneeling in the snow. The prisoners, who should have been unarmed and contained, are everywhere, rifles in their hands, forming ranks, organizing for battle. The German officer spots Funk immediately. The stripes on his sleeve mark him as a leader, a prize. He strides forward, shoving his MP40 into Funk's stomach, screaming a command in German, "Surrender, drop your weapon." Except Funk doesn't speak German. He has no idea what the officer is ordering. The officer screams again, louder this time, face red, veins bulging. Funk looks around. 90 Germans, half-armed, his 4 men disarmed and helpless, 1 other American at his side, equally exposed. The math is brutal. The odds are 0, 90 to 1. Survival doesn't exist in these numbers. Rationally, he should surrender, but Funk remembers Normandy. 84 Americans murdered in a field, shot like animals, left to freeze in the snow. He already made a decision. He would never surrender to the Germans. So instead of yielding, he does something no one could have predicted. He starts laughing.
No one knows exactly why. Maybe it was a ruse, a tactic to confuse the enemy. Maybe it was sheer stress. Maybe the human brain, confronted with certain death, just does the strangest things. Or maybe Funk found the absurdity of the moment, an officer screaming in a language he didn't understand while expecting instant compliance, too ridiculous to contain. Funk later said he tried to stop laughing but couldn't, and in that chaos, the effect is devastating. The German officer screams louder. Funk laughs harder. He bends over, shoulders shaking, calling to his men. "I don't understand what he's saying." Some of the German soldiers begin laughing too. The tension becomes surreal. Their officer turns purple with rage. This is not how prisoners behave. They beg, they plead, they comply. They don't stand there cackling while a gun is shoved into their stomach. For a few critical seconds, the officer freezes. Funk uses those seconds. Still laughing, he slowly reaches for his Thompson submachine gun, slung over his shoulder in the standard paratrooper carry. The officer watches, convinced Funk is surrendering. Then, in a motion faster than thought, Funk swings the Thompson down, lines up the muzzle, and fires. The M1A1 Thompson spits .45 ACP rounds at 600 per minute. Each round hits like a sledgehammer. The bullets don't just wound, they obliterate. The first burst tears into the German officer's chest. 30 rounds in less than 3 seconds. The officer is dead before he hits the snow. Funk doesn't stop. He can't stop. The moment he started, there was no middle ground. Kill or die. He pivots, spraying lead across the nearest German soldiers. Men scream, men fall. Blood stains the snow. Brass casings fly, steaming in the freezing air. 30 rounds gone in seconds. Time slows. The 2-second reload for a Thompson is an eternity in a firefight. Enough for 90 Germans to kill 1 man. Funk yanks the empty magazine, slams in a fresh one, racks the bolt, and keeps firing. Fluid motion, muscle memory, years of training compressed into one lethal sequence. At the same time, he's yelling to his men, "Pick up your weapons! Pick up your weapons!" The 4 guards, still kneeling moments ago, scramble for rifles dropped by dead Germans. Seconds ago, they were prisoners. Now they fight for their lives. The Germans are in chaos. No orders, no plan. Some fire back, bullets cracking past Funk's head. One round kills the other American standing beside him. Funk pivots, fires, kills, moves. The guards are shooting too. 60 seconds. That's all it takes. 21 Germans lie dead in the snow. 24 more are wounded. The rest, over 40, drop their weapons and raise their hands. The prisoners are prisoners again. Leonard Funk stands in the middle of it all. Smoke rises from his Thompson. Bodies litter the snow. He later told his men, "That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen." The aftermath is almost anticlimactic. Company C secures Holzheim. The surviving captured Germans are marched to the rear under heavier guard this time. Funk reports the incident to his commanding officer. Just another firefight, just another day in the war. But the story spreads through the regiment, the division, the entire 82nd Airborne. The sergeant who laughed at 90 Germans killed half of them with a Tommy gun and lived. When the Medal of Honor recommendation reaches Washington, no one questions it. Funk did the impossible. Outnumbered, weapon pressed to his gut, facing near certain death, he turned the tables. The official citation reads, "Although overwhelmingly outnumbered and facing almost certain death, First Sergeant Funk, pretending to comply with the order, began slowly unslinging his submachine gun from his shoulder, then with lightning motion brought the muzzle into line and riddled the German officer." He didn't just survive Holzheim, he rewrote the rules of what a soldier could do in combat. He turned on the rest of the Germans, firing as he shouted to the Americans around him to grab enemy weapons and fight. The war didn't end for Leonard Funk in that frozen Belgian village, but the moment that defined him did. September 5, 1945. The White House. President Harry Truman steps forward and places the Medal of Honor around Leonard Funk's neck. Truman looks at him and says something that will echo far beyond that ceremony. "I would rather have this medal than be President of the United States." Let's count what Leonard Funk earned in World War II.
The Medal of Honor for Holzheim. The Distinguished Service Cross for silencing the anti-aircraft guns in Holland. The Silver Star for leading 18 lost paratroopers 40 miles through enemy-held France after D-Day. A Bronze Star for meritorious service. 3 Purple Hearts, wounded 3 separate times and still kept fighting. Add to that the Croix de Guerre from France, the Order of Leopold from Belgium, and the Military Order of William from the Netherlands, their highest award for valor, the equivalent of the Victoria Cross. Leonard Funk becomes the most decorated paratrooper of World War II. 5'5", 140 pounds, a former store clerk who turned into a legend. Then the war ends. Funk goes home. He doesn't write a memoir. He doesn't tour the country giving speeches. He doesn't turn the Medal of Honor into a career, a brand, or a platform. He doesn't cash in. He returns to Pennsylvania and takes a job with the Veterans Administration. The VA, the massive, grinding bureaucracy responsible for caring for America's former soldiers. Funk helps veterans navigate paperwork, processes disability claims, cuts through red tape for men who gave everything and now need help getting what they're owed. It's the same kind of clerk work he did before the war. Quiet, unglamorous, necessary. For 27 years, Leonard Funk sits behind a desk helping other veterans. He rises through the ranks and eventually becomes division chief of the Pittsburgh Regional Office. A good salary, steady hours, a pension at the end.
His wife Gertrude stays by his side. They raise 2 daughters in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, a working-class neighborhood in a working-class town not far from where he grew up. The Medal of Honor hangs in a case somewhere. The Distinguished Service Cross, the Silver Star, the foreign decorations from France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. He never talks about them. When people ask about Holzheim, about the laughing, about the 90 Germans, he shrugs. Did what I had to do. That's it. That's all he ever says. November 20th, 1992, Braddock Hills, Pennsylvania. Leonard Alfred Funk, Jr. dies of cancer. He's 76 years old. They bury him at Arlington National Cemetery, Section 35, Grave 23734. Among the heroes of every American war. At the time of his death, he is the last surviving Medal of Honor recipient from the 82nd Airborne Division of World War II. A fitness center at Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty, is named in his honor. A highway in Pennsylvania bears his name. In 2023, a post office in McKeesport is dedicated to him. And still, most people have never heard of Leonard Funk. They know Audie Murphy. They know Alvin York. They don't know the short, quiet paratrooper who laughed at 90 Germans and killed 21 of them with a Tommy gun.
Here's what Leonard Funk's story tells us. War doesn't favor the biggest. It doesn't favor the strongest. It doesn't even favor the fearless. War favors the people who keep thinking when everyone else freezes. At Holzheim, Funk had every reason to surrender. The math was impossible, 90 against 1. A gun pressed into his stomach, his men already captured. Any rational person would have given up. But Funk wasn't thinking about the math. He was thinking about Malmedy, about 84 Americans murdered in a field, about what happens when you surrender to men who don't follow rules, and about his own soldiers, 4 guards on their knees, and dozens more scattered across the village who would be slaughtered from behind if those Germans escaped. So he laughed, maybe as a tactic, maybe from stress, maybe because the whole situation was absurd, and while everyone else was off balance, while the officer was confused, Leonard Funk acted. 60 seconds later, he was standing in a field of bodies, alive when he should have been dead. There's a quote often attributed to President Truman about the Medal of Honor. He said it to Leonard Funk in the White House Rose Garden. "I would rather have this medal than be President of the United States." Think about that. The most powerful man on earth, the man who had just ended World War II, the man who would reshape the global order, looking at a 5'5" former store clerk from Pennsylvania and saying, "I'd rather be you." Because what Truman understood, and what every Medal of Honor citation makes clear, is this: courage isn't about size, it isn't about strength, it isn't even about training. Courage is what you do when there's a gun in your stomach and 90 men want you dead.